Ebutia is a local Karamajong brew made from millet and sorghum. This is one of the places in Kotido Karamoja where it is brewed. In a desperate attempt to save their livestock, pastoralists book residue the previous evening and come to get it at dawn to make up for grass shortage. And it seems the animals have learned to cope. These are sick and old animals left behind when pastoralists migrate to more resource-endowed neighborhoods in search of water and grass for their cattle during dry season. Karamoja, a pastoral area, is part of the cattle corridor, whose ecosystem is fragile as the stretch gets drier the further north one moves from the equator, and it's located in the extreme northeast. Because cattle represent the whole livelihood of Karamajongs by providing them with food in the form of milk, blood, but most importantly, a symbol of wealth through which they acquire wives after paying bride price, Karamajongs go out of their way to protect them, even if it means separating from their families during dry season. The problem now, however, is that climate patterns have changed and they can no longer plan how long they will be away for. It's Wednesday, midday. 16-year-old Nakong Rose should be at school, but she had to walk 12 miles to get here at the river Menswa, the only place in the neighborhood she could find water for their goats. Many more children also walk miles, sometimes during school hours, in order to get water for both domestic use as well as the animals.
The rain would come sometime between the month of April to about August, and the rivers, which are temporary rivers, would usually swell the banks, and dams would be there. And then after a short time, the rivers would dry. Now they dry much earlier than before.
This is Dopeth Riverbed in Kotido, one of the biggest rivers in Karamoja that used to sustain a substantial amount of water for quite some time during the dry season, which made it possible for pastoralists in this area to stay home quite longer. But these days it dries faster. The climate change phenomenon has also affected the water table to the extent some boreholes like this one in Kadokini village, Panyangana sub-county.
Those changes should be due to the weather patterns which we are already observing. So definitely, zones which are already prone to some of these disasters are the ones which will be impacted more.
Although Karamoja is a semi-arid area, annually it received relatively low mean rainfall ranging from 807 millimeters, which was sufficient for cultivation of crops for their own consumption, especially sorghum, the staple food. Today, granaries in most homesteads are empty, for immediately after the prolonged dry spells that saw all the sorghum stems dry up in 2007, there were heavy rains that caused floods, making it impossible to cultivate. This caused a food shortage that necessitated intervention. This is Kacheri village, 50 kilometers north of Kotido town. Today, World Food Programme plans to distribute 138 metric tons of food to a total of 12,981 people. Kacheri community is part of the 680,000 persons target for food support. Since 1960, World Food Programme has been distributing food in Karamoja every after 2-year drought patterns. In recent times, however, they have been overstretched and can hardly meet the people's food needs.
In 2005, we did food distribution to the ordinary population. Then again in 2006, and then in 2007 as well. So you can see that pattern of every 2 years has kind of been broken.
In an effort to survive famine, Karamajongs have also resorted to eating leaves. One of the useful plants growing widely in Karamoja is a valentine tree, which withstands dry conditions. Its leaves are boiled as sauce to accompany sorghum bread if they are lucky to find the sorghum. Surprisingly, there does not seem any awareness that the crisis is climate change induced. There is an urgent need to avail information to the Karamajongs to enable them to work out adaptive mechanisms. There's also a need for government and other stakeholders to develop long-term strategies, considering the Karamajongs lack neither the means nor the resources to cope.